Right, Emily, I think you're really going to appreciate my mug, knowing how much you love reading. What do you think?
I think it's amazing. I've never seen anything like that before.
So good. It's all the best Key Stage 2 books on there. So speaking of, have you got your favourite brew with you? Because that is the most important thing to know.
I do. I don't normally drink hot drinks, but I have in the last couple of years discovered chai latte, and I do normally prefer it iced, but it's the one hot drink that I will drink.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I've said this so many times. Mine's just the boring old builder's tea, so that's nowhere near as exciting as yours. You've written an amazing blog for us about Careers Week. So obviously National Careers Week is in March. I know you can kind of celebrate careers anytime, but could you just give us a quick summary of how you celebrate Careers Week in school?
Yeah, so I created a careers week where essentially the children can discover lots of different jobs, I suppose. And I tried to put an emphasis on it being a huge range as well. I know in schools we tend to kind of focus on STEM or, the ones that are seen as ambitious or really careers rather than jobs. But I've really tried to make a resource that encompasses everything. And in that week, they do lots of different activities that allow them to experience those jobs. So it's just a week-long celebration, really, with visitors and activities. And essentially, it's supposed to be fun. They're supposed to enjoy it and just experience it. It's not teaching as such, it's an experience.
I want to dive into the logistics now, but I won't because you've written all about it in your blog. But what is your favourite part that week?
It's definitely having all the visitors in, and actually, whenever I've run it, I've had so many parents offer to do it that I've had to extend into 2 weeks for some of them.
Nice.
And it's seeing all the different jobs that I'm like, "Oh, I wish I'd known about this when I was younger," because I didn't even know that existed. I probably still would have become a teacher because I never had another ambition myself, but I think just seeing all the jobs that are out there, and I love hearing about it, so I know the kids are as well, because if I'm sat there, learning all these new jobs that I didn't know existed, then I know that they're appreciating it as well, and I think that's what I enjoy the most about it.
What's been the sort of the coolest or most sort of unusual job that you've had in?
We had one of the parents worked for Cadbury's, and she visits all the factories, and she's part of the health and safety team. But hearing about all the different parts that make chocolate was really, really interesting. And then we had another parent who had built Brentford Football Stadium. He was I can't remember his job role exactly, but he was a huge part of building that, which obviously the kids loved. And it's the only football stadium I've ever really visited. So that was interesting too. And one person was an architect, and they're building the new Hollywood studios down by London. She was building those. So I was at a very good school for careers that year, and it was really interesting.
Do you think it kind of opens the kids' minds up? Because I feel like kids only think they're sort of teacher, doctor, nurse, what they can visually see. So were they kind of surprised by the variety of different jobs?
Yeah, we had architects. My dad came in and did a talk about being RAF. My mum came in and did HR. But I also had people come in who were in job roles that maybe they have heard of before, but they could see it in a new way. So hairdressers, I think they see, or they just cut hair, and it's well, no, they have to know about chemicals to be able to, color your hair, and they have to do all these different hairstyles. It was introducing them to jobs that they knew, but in a different way. And I thought that was interesting.
And do you think there were any, I don't know if you managed to get in a variety of men and women, but do you think some children might have this preconception that certain jobs are for a certain sex, and were any of their ideas challenged by that, do you think?
The first ever one that I did, we did a talk about who they thought were in each job. Now, the friends that I've got are all very academic. So whenever I talk about a scientist, so I've got a friend who's a scientist who works at the Crick Institute in London. Whenever I said scientist, they all just assumed it was a guy. And I was like, no, it's actually a girl. I've got friends who are doctors, both girls. I've got a friend who's a dentist, a girl. And just talking about my own friendship group really challenged it for them, because they were typically jobs that they'd always seen as male dominated.
Yeah.
And even when they talk about the difference between primary and secondary, even my own class saw primary as women and secondary as men. And I was like, okay, we need to challenge that straight away, because just making a man doesn't make you a better secondary teacher. And I think, yeah, there's a lot of preconceptions there. So I've tried really hard to have a good balance, but show that anyone could be anything.
What's the most difficult bit to organise about the whole week? Because there's a lot going on. When I read your blog, it feels like a logistical nightmare, but clearly you've run it a few times quite smoothly. So which has been the hardest bit?
It's fitting in all the visitors. As I said, you have so many people volunteer to do it, and it's the logistics, I suppose, of fitting everyone in. But I essentially just run it on a first come, first serve basis. So
Right.
whoever gets back to me first, they get the slot that works best for them. Often others, especially now, since COVID, it's people work from home, so they have a bit more flexibility in their schedule. A lot of companies want people to do it as well because it's obviously
Yeah.
good for them. So they do have a bit more flexibility now, I'd say. But my advice would be run it on first come, first serve. And if people can fit around that, great. If there's specific jobs the kids want to know about, I will try and reach out to them first. But otherwise, that's the only way logistically it can work.
So obviously kids know they need a job for money, but do you think schools put enough emphasis on what's the difference between actual work that's fulfilling and what's just a job?
I don't think it is done enough. I think, again, this is kind of where I mentioned earlier, where there's a lot of STEM jobs pushed or ones that are seen as very, I suppose, typical careers. And I think because we push those sort of jobs, it is more seen as aspirational jobs or about money or about the career you can build. And that's why I've really tried to build in things like hairdressing, where they know about it forever, but they can see it as a job that's fulfilling. If you already enjoy something, then why not turn it into a job? Same as, I suppose, we have to be adaptable to the fact that they like computing and gaming. And it's like, okay, if you enjoy those things, how could you turn that into a job? And I think it's addressing it in that way, especially in primary. It's about saying, what do you enjoy now? How could you use that in the future? And starting to get them to think about it. We don't want to go into too much of the aspirational careers when they're too young because it sounds
Mm.
pushy. It is talking
Mm.
about what to enjoy, how can we utilize that? And I think
Yeah.
that is enough, especially in primary.
Well, you need to make it accessible to them, don't you? Because some of them, it's just way beyond what they can even think about. I think something you wrote in your blog that I liked was that you said you ask kids what they'd like to be, and a lot of them might say a YouTuber or a gamer. But when you dig into it a bit more, you find out that they don't really know much else, and that's what they've been exposed to. So when you run the careers week, so obviously you have the different adults talking about their jobs. What kind of activities do the children do in this week?
So they're really, really varied. Again, I've tried to make it varied so that it looks at skills as well as the actual jobs. So when the architect came in, we actually had a computer program. It's free to use. I can't remember what it's called though, but it was a computer program where they could build their own building and like inside a room. We've done physical ones. So the doctor one, they have to wear gloves and then wash their hands with paint to show that they know.
Oh, yeah.
And then we've got some more paper-based ones. So for farming, unless it's really good weather or somebody who can do farming and you can grow something over time, it's quite difficult. So we did a quiz, and that was paper-based. And all of the activities that I've created that I have shared in the blog, they've all been created with somebody from that career. So I haven't worked with them myself. They've actually been developed by the person that I worked with to do the activities. So they as authentic as maybe they can be.
Yeah.
Hopefully anyway.
It sounds fun. Like I've never done anything like that before. Obviously, I've seen you blog about it and I've just never found time to do it in school, but I've always wanted to. So since you started running it, is there anything you've tweaked as the years have gone by to kind of improve it or change it?
Yeah, I've added in more jobs as I've gone through, and that's the request of the children because when
Yeah.
I created it, obviously it was just who I knew and who
Mm.
created it for me. And so I've tried to get in touch with people to add to it. I have diversified the activities, so I have tried to make them a bit more accessible, I suppose. So not all of them were quite paper based to start with, but then I did start in COVID, so you know, um, I've tried to make some more physical now, some involve computers more, and kind of develop them so they feel a bit more accessible to everybody.
Okay, so for those schools that don't have maybe as many willing parents, what would you suggest? How would they run something like this?
My first advice would be to still ask the parents because I thought there weren't many willing parents, and then there were so many more because it's about their job and it's their expertise. They were much more willing to come in. But otherwise, there's a lot of local companies that run schemes to actually go into schools and talk about careers, or they have to do volunteer weeks, and therefore that counts as part of their volunteering. That was a really good way to do it. I'm reaching out online, so there's companies that might do Zoom calls and things like that. In the future, what I'd love to do with the Careers Week to develop it a bit more would be to actually create videos that are filmed that people can then show in schools to go alongside the activities, which might be a little way off, but that would be where I envision it going. But there's a lot of people that you can reach out to, even online. And I think there's a wealth of information out there.
Yeah, you generally find people are really willing to help schools and kids out, aren't they? Like, I've just emailed my local dentist before for something, or a vet, and because it's quite new to them to do that sort of thing. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for chatting. I know you've written loads more about it in your blog, and you've shared some really useful resources that, in my opinion, should be paid for. So it's a real gem. So, yeah, if anyone is listening or watching this, definitely go and read and check that out. But thank you, Emily. Hopefully speak to you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.